Aloha, welcome back to Aina Bear Farm. Going to do an update on our garden experiment, our kitchen garden, and talk about some of the things that have gone well and some of the things that have been challenging that we're learning from. It's been a while since we posted a video, just been super busy, but hopefully we'll have plenty more updates coming after this one. So one of the first things that might be obvious if you've seen one of our past videos is these pigeon peas just exploded, and we'll get a close-up on those in a minute. But they really outdid themselves. Now it's November, they're covered in flowers and making their seeds, which is exciting because I'm poised to just spread those all over the property. Nitrogen fixing, biomass making, quick growing, food producing, just a wonderful permaculture plant. Yeah, we'll take a closer look at those in just a minute. Let's see, as I pan over to the right, this part of the garden tends to not get very much sun in the winter because of this giant hedge of photocarpus, which at some point I'm going to have to deal with, partly because they grow all around the power lines. And we'll take them down, to a manageable height. And then we'll get sun year round on this part of the garden, but it's okay. I kind of let this just be fallow in the winter. This winter we'll be amending it with a lot of manure and straw, and just kind of getting it ready for the spring again. Here in this bed, we did plant a row of carrots. I'll show you how wonderfully those germinated. Being sarcastic, I think there's like 2 plants there, maybe 3. Going down, I don't know, maybe we've got like 30 that came up. And it's just typical of carrots. You can see the cardboard next to it. What I did is something I've done in the past, where I get the ground nice and wet, get the seeds in there, barely cover them, and then cover the whole thing with cardboard for a week and then peel it back. It's hard to germinate carrots in the tropics. You need really good soil that has a lot of organic material that will stay really moist. Otherwise, what tends to happen is if you keep them covered for too long, they will emerge and then they will just rot really quickly, or they'll get terrible sunburn when you finally do peel back the mat. So it's just kind of like a perfect timing thing. Really good soil can kind of help with that. So we'll give it another shot, try to fill in some of these blanks. I did plant some basil and some fennel and dill here and there in between, just to try to fill in some of these gaps, but that's what we've got going on there. Next row down is going to be some kale we'll have going in soon. That'll do well over the winter. On this little trellis, we're trying for the 3rd time our cucamelons. Gherkin, I think, is another name for those. You can see one, we plant them in flats and then move them out here. That one got eaten, and that one's still going. So it's the 3rd time because every time I've done it, something has come along and eaten them. So you would think I'd move to a different location, but I'm fairly hard-headed, so I'll try again, see what happens. As we pan to the other side, pineapples are looking good. This is a mix of yellow and white. Nothing fruiting yet on these, but that's to be expected. Within the next year, we'll probably start getting a lot of fruit off of these. Strawberries up on the next one. They've done okay, but they do get eaten. Most of them get eaten by bugs. I'd say we lose probably 75% to bugs, and just have not wanted to try any kind of insecticide or eradication methods so far, but I may try some interplanting sometime soon, see if we can distract the bugs a little bit or keep them away. Our asparagus patch is doing okay. One thing you also might notice is this this weed that grows up here, which I've talked a little bit in the past. I did finally identify it. It's called Desmodium. It is a nitrogen fixer. You might notice it looks a lot like perennial peanut or the ground peanut. It's a runner, great ground cover. But I have noticed here well, first of all, it goes crazy, as you can see. I mean, it's just a forest. It's mostly of that. It does keep out other weeds, and it's not that hard to pull out. So can be okay, but it also can mix in with grasses and be quite a mess. But the main issue I have with it is every time I pull it out, even when we've gotten a lot of rain, the soil underneath it is very dry. And so I think the Desmodium just soaks up a lot of water, which obviously can outcompete the plants around it. I've also noticed that if I let it get established too much around other plants, the other plants don't do that well. And given that it's a nitrogen fixer, you might think the opposite, and given it's a ground cover, it's covering the ground. I mean, I'm sure it has some good qualities, but I just feel like one of the lessons I've learned is to manage it a little bit better and not let it get too established. I mean, it's pretty easy. So like basically at this point, you just come in with like a hori saw or a hori knife or whatever you call it, a little sickle type thing, and just cut it back. And then ideally it will release some of that nitrogen into the ground anyways. Around the pineapples, we've got some cardboard so that it can't really get established too close to the pineapples, and then some straw to hold that down. Our compost pile is down from originally maybe 5 feet high to a foot. We have been using it. It's close to finished, not completely, but still plenty of bug life happening in there. And this, if you haven't seen the video that we made on that, was just cow manure and straw or hay that we cut from our pasture mixed up. Got a nice patch of green beans here. This is definitely a winner here. We found a variety that does really well. I think it's Tender Bush is the name of it. And so we've just been saving seeds from that now. And we just get a patch of that going every month or so, kind of stagger that. Down at the bottom corner of the garden, we do have something really cool. We finally got Kahlo, so our Kahlo patch or our taro patch is going. I was waiting for gifts of Kahlo. We've got several different varieties in here that we're going to have to kind of help identify. But primarily upland or dry land varieties that don't really need to be sitting in water a lot of the time. You might notice there's some watermelon mixed in there, and that's because this was the spot where we scooped out the middle, dumped a whole bunch of food scraps, and then covered that in soil. So plenty of volunteers in here that I've had to come and weed out. But I decided to leave the watermelon because it's doing really well. It'll act as a kind of temporary ground cover, and it'll suck up a lot of nitrogen, but then I'll just come back and replace that. And then obviously a lot of papaya down here. I'm just waiting to be able to tell the sex of these so that I can see if there's any hermaphroditic plants that are worth keeping, in which case I would keep maybe 2 or 3 down here, just to provide a little bit of shade for the Kahlo and then get a little extra fruit from the papaya. Further down, our sweet potatoes we've been starting to harvest these. They're kind of at the end of their first cycle, so they will start to make extra tubers. If you leave them, they'll kind of keep spreading and make new ones, but then the old ones will start to rot in the ground, and so you kind of just have to weigh when you want to harvest them when you're in the tropics. But doing great, very easy to take care of, no complaints there. All right, now here's our wall of pigeon pea. Make my way around so you can see some of these seed pods are popping up all over the place. Some of these plants are maybe 10 feet high, and I did not intend for them to get this big in the garden. I thought that they would go to seed way before they got to this size. I've learned since planting them that they start to produce seeds once the days get shorter and they don't have as much light. So it's just a seasonal timing thing, which is good to know going forward. So the plan is to wait till we have lots of dried seed pods so we can harvest hundreds of pigeon pea seeds, and we're going to put a lot of them in our food forest in the pasture project. And we're also going to move this hedge. Oh, here's moringa with plenty of seed pods. It's doing really well. We've been harvesting these seeds to try to propagate new plants off of. But back to the pigeon pea. eventually, once we harvest all these, we will cut this row down, chop and drop the biomass into the garden, and then eventually like eradicate the roots and everything and reclaim those as vegetable garden beds. Right next to it there are 2 beds, 1, 2, that the intention is to get some carrots in this winter once we start to chop some of that back and let the sunlight in a little bit. The other plan, which I can show you, just have to make my way outside the garden, is to move the pigeon peas, or replant them rather, into a windbreak hedge to block the garden. Real quick, I'll show you. We've got a lily koi here. We're going to let that grow up onto the fence, and then we actually put another one uphill a little bit. So I have nice walls of lily koi vines here, a couple different types. Got a good white pineapple that we've harvested already. Tithonia on the corner, looking beautiful. Okay, so here out front, originally I planted this la'i, this red tea leaf, as part of a fence to keep pigs out, and also as a little bit of a windbreak. And it's working well, it's getting established, it's very nice looking. But compared to the pigeon pea, the growth, I mean, it's no contest. And so the idea that we have now is, you can see where we've cut a line down here, and the wind comes from the ocean up, mostly up this way, and then a little bit from this way. So here at the bottom, this is all comfrey. So we're growing a line of comfrey to partly stop the grass from growing up. It's a really good grass block once it gets established, and also just to get some extra chop and drop. Then we're going to take out this entire grass section once we're ready, going all the way down, and then we're going to replant a wall of pigeon pea out here. So in the future, this will be here, and it will actually work as a pretty good wind block, and we'll leave the la'i here as well as a fence reinforcement and just a nice aesthetic. The sun will kind of come across here. It'll angle in so that this will continue to get sunlight, and we'll keep the pigeon pea that's out here a little bit more managed than up here. We haven't managed this at all because we're just trying to harvest seeds off of it. But in the future, we will we'll manage this like into a nice windbreak hedge. And so that should be really good for keeping the wind down. The wind here gets pretty crazy. We had about a week recently of like sustained 30-mile-an-hour winds, gusts up to 50 miles an hour. So that's just pretty rough on vegetables, especially the puny little annuals that need to be babied. You can see our dwarf coconuts out here doing pretty well. I just kind of want to show you this angle where you can see the corner of that plan. Going back, we've harvested some bananas. That's been great. And the bananas also act as a little bit more of a windbreak too, especially as they'll continue to fill in and make a wall of leaf mass right there. But eventually we'll have the pigeon pea come all the way down and then go up to block the wind on this side too. So this will be quite the little secret hidden garden in there, that wall of pigeon pea and then the comfrey on the outside. So that's it for now. Thanks for joining us again at Ina Bear Farm. Again, I'll try to get some more updates on the food forest and other cool projects. We've certainly been busy, so try to get you guys some new content soon to check out. Until then, hope you're doing well. Going into winter if you're on the continent. Getting ready for maybe a bit of a break. It never stops here. That's the one downside of gardening in the tropics. It's a year-round exhaustion, but I love it. So take care, and we'll see you back here again at Ina Bear Farm. Aloha.